In the Caucasus, there is a magnificent nation with a coastline on the Black Sea. It's where you can find history, warm and friendly people, beaches, unique dances and cuisines, all waiting to be explored. This country, located above Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan and below Russia, is called Georgia. Undoubtedly, they are one of the most outstanding representatives of the Caucasian nations. Georgia has a land area of approximately 70,000 square kilometers, hosting officially 4 million people. There are also 3 crucial autonomous republics within its borders. These are autonomous republics such as Abkhazia, South Ossetia, and Adjara. For example, Adjara Autonomous Republic is located in the southwest of the country, with its capital, Batumi, known as the casino city of the Black Sea. Abkhazia is located northwest of the country, and South Ossetia, whose independence is not recognized, is located in the northern inland part of the country. The capital, Tbilisi, is located in the southern inland areas of the country. Today, Georgia is known globally as Georgia, while its name in Georgian, the country's language, is known as Sakartvelo. In the lands of the Caucasus stretching to the Black Sea, there have been so many interactions throughout history that it is said that Georgians originate from the ancient kingdoms of Iberia and Colchis that once ruled the region. While the Kingdom of Colchis mostly ruled the country's coastal areas, the Kingdom of Iberia controlled the inner regions, extending to the present-day territories of countries like Turkey, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. After ancient times, the people of these lands became the target of many different empires. For example, in the 7th century, this region witnessed the struggles of the Byzantines and the Arabs. In the post-15th century period, it was influenced by the Ottoman Empire and Tsarist Russia. The Russians managed to annex Georgia from the Ottomans. In the late 19th century, the country became a part of the Soviet Union. Finally, on April 9, 1991, Georgia achieved complete independence and took its present form. Even though they are independent today, they still face problems with their autonomous republics. Looking at the country's flag, we can see that it consists of red and white colors. There is a red cross dividing the white background into 4. Additionally, in each of the resulting quadrants, there are 4 crosses of the same color. It is said that the total of 5 crosses on the flag represents the 5 holy wounds, the 5 piercing wounds suffered by Jesus Christ during his crucifixion. The origins of the flag date back to the Middle Ages, when it was a banner of the kingdoms of Georgia. In the 20th and 21st centuries, when Georgians began their independence movements again, they turned these medieval flags with 5 crosses into a national symbol and popularized them for the modern world. Although they have been under the rule of different states for a long time, Georgians have managed to preserve their existence and culture without assimilation. For example, they have their alphabet and language. Frankly, if you are accustomed to the Latin alphabet, you may not have much clue when you see writings in Georgian alphabet around you in Georgia. The Georgian alphabet looks highly complex and many letters look alike. Some simple expressions in Georgian are as follows. For example, Gamajoba means hello. If you say Madloba to someone you meet there, it means thank you. Again, Ara means no, while Diach means yes. Knowing Georgian or Russian is very important if you stay in Georgia for a while, especially in this country, where almost every word of elderly taxi drivers knows English. English may be sufficient in tourist places, but you must express your concerns in Georgian or Russian for official and social matters. But if you are going to Georgia briefly, they have thought of you on the streets. You will see that almost every sign, direction information, or street name is written in Georgian and English. Therefore, even if you do not know how to use Google Maps, getting lost or going to the wrong places in the capital, Tbilisi, and throughout the country is tough. Especially after the Russia-Ukrainian war, Russia has become even more popular in the country. Because if you go to Tbilisi or Batumi in Georgia today, you can easily understand that almost 1 in every 2 people is Russian or Ukrainian. It's not difficult to distinguish Russians from Georgians in the country. Blonde and colorful-eyed people are most likely Russian or Ukrainian. Also, you can hear these people speaking Russian aloud when passing by them. The facial features of the Georgian people are pretty different from those of the Slavic people. Georgians have sharper cheeks, foreheads, jaws, and especially very pointed noses. Many of them have long and sturdy noses. Men in Batumi especially resemble the people of the Black Sea. Moreover, one of the societies that make up the ethnic structure of Georgians comes from the ancient kingdom of Lazica. Lazica means the land of the Laz and refers to an ethnic group stretching from the Black Sea region of Turkey to Georgia. As for the skin color of Georgians, they are fair-skinned or white-skinned. People's hair is primarily black and chestnut brown tones. Plenty of blonde Slavic people in the capital Tbilisi today are temporary residents, Russians and Ukrainians. There are so many Ukrainians in Tbilisi that they are currently organizing anti-Russian rallies around Liberty Square every night. Ukrainians not only organize rallies but also fill the walls of surrounding buildings with anti-Russia and anti-Putin slogans. Some visuals and texts are impossible not to attract attention. In almost every part of Tbilisi, the flags of Georgia, the European Union and Ukraine are waving together. The Georgian government allows these rallies under heavy police control. Suppose anti-Russian protests continue at this intensity in this country, strategically located just below Russia. In that case, it is unknown whether Russia will extend its hand here, but the thought is sad. Of course, one of the main reasons why Russians and Ukrainians prefer this country is that there are many cultural similarities. Because Georgians are people who have embraced the Orthodox faith of Christianity in this sense, immigrants seek cultural and religious ties in the countries they go to. According to statistics, it is said that Georgians make up about 87% of the permanent population in the country. Still, the presence of both autonomous nations and war victims has turned Tbilisi into a very multicultural structure. Before the influx of migration to Tbilisi, the population was 1 million, but now it is estimated to be close to 2 million, according to unofficial figures. Georgians are characteristically warm and friendly towards those who contribute value and bring foreign currency to their country. Some may describe them as racist due to internal issues. I cannot say that, but I can say that the locals are quite hospitable and lively for short-term visitors from abroad. People constantly smile and have a positive outlook on life. One of the best examples of their lively and upbeat nature is the fact that Georgian youth enliven busy streets and squares with their local dances. You may have seen the unique local dances of different nations worldwide. However, Caucasian dances, especially those highlighted by Georgians in the Caucasus region, are dances where the enjoyment and tempo are very high and dramatically mesmerize the viewers. Especially in Tbilisi, Georgian youth strongly embrace their dances and culture, proudly showcasing them to visitors to their country. This indirectly shows us that they are intensely patriotic towards their country and are also fun-loving individuals. Suppose you will stay in Tbilisi for more than one night and have almost no chance of encountering these dances on the street. Every evening, different people perform Caucasian dance and music shows simultaneously. While wandering in Tbilisi, you will come across many people who may have come from countries such as Bangladesh, India, and the Philippines. These people are probably tourists, but they are everywhere in every corner of Tbilisi. Some of these people are tourists, but nearly half of them come to Georgia to work. Of course, one must also remember this. Georgia is one of the cheapest countries you can go to worldwide. Even though their currencies are precious, the unit cost of your expenses there is low. They have a currency called the Georgian lari, and €1 is approximately 3 Georgian lari. There is no fixed minimum wage amount known in the country. People work for hourly wages. The average monthly income of a person in the country varies between 2,000 and 3,000 Georgian lari, which corresponds to around 800 to 900 euros. These monthly wages may seem low to you. However, the country's high purchasing power makes accessing food and various items easier. Moreover, since Georgia is also an agricultural country, many vegetables and fruits grow in the country, and people can consume them cheaply. Also, if you go to the capital, Tbilisi, you will see that almost everyone drives Mercedes German vehicles or Toyota, and Toyota's premium vehicle brand is Lexus. You can also see both left-hand and right-hand drive cars in traffic in the capital, because vehicles with both types of steering are allowed to be driven in traffic in the country. However, the number of vehicles with steering on the right is relatively low and generally seen in older models. Most new model cars have steering on the left. There is another situation regarding cars in Tbilisi that you may notice, that almost 1 out of every 10 cars in traffic does not have a bumper, my friends. At first you think it's a coincidence, but after a while when you start seeing it constantly, you think there must be a reason for this. Yes, indeed, they are missing and driving in traffic damage. Since bumpers are not cared about by the police in traffic, people can drive bumperless cars in traffic. The reason for this habit of driving bumperless cars, seen only in this country in the world according to some, is that it is expensive to install a new bumper, and according to some, there are not enough services related to bumper mechanics in the country. For example, installing a new bumper on a new Mercedes vehicle can be economically costly for a Georgian. Therefore, they consider it luxurious and do not install a new one. In other words, Georgians find installing a new bumper on a car unnecessary and costly. As a result, this country is not given much importance to car cosmetics. Regarding taxis in the country, it should be noted that they are not yellow but white. The taxi situation in Batumi is more complicated. We'll discuss it in the Batumi video. Another thing about taxis is that there are no taxi meters, my friends. Yes, they don't exist, so if you take a taxi in Tbilisi or Georgia, grab your phone, show the distance and name of your destination to the taxi driver, and get a price. Otherwise, you entrust yourself entirely to the taxi driver, and when you get out of the car, they have the right to charge you whatever price they want. However, on average, the fare from one point to another in the capital is 20 Georgian lari, approximately €6. If you are going from the city centre to the airport in Tbilisi, they ask for around 40 Georgian lari, which is about €15. There are also some noticeable details on the streets in the capital. For example, there are many street dogs. The animals in the city are not aggressive, but statistically there are around 80,000 stray animals in the capital, Tbilisi. This may be a negative feature for Tbilisi for people who fear dogs. The fact that the capital is so total of street dogs requires you to walk looking at the ground rather than across the streets, because the probability of stepping on dog feces at any moment is relatively high. Furthermore, despite the country not being vast in area, events happening there are heard and known to everyone quickly. For example, if a murder occurs in Georgia, this becomes a topic of conversation for everyone, and everyone starts talking about the same issue. Another issue is that both taxi drivers in the city and drivers of private minibuses providing intercity transportation can smoke without caring about the customer. This situation indicates that people over a certain age in the country may be uneducated in terms of ethics and may have limited empathy skills. If you are thinking of traveling between Batumi and Tbilisi, definitely don't go by intercity minibuses. Travel by trains instead. Because these guys drive like crazy without knowing the traffic rules. They drive very fast and drive 3 cars on a 2-lane road. Also, the seats of the minibuses are usually terrible and dirty. On the other hand, people live pretty well in this country. Of course, they owe their economy and purchasing power to tourism and casino gambling establishments. Both Batumi and Tbilisi have many casinos, and these places make a significant contribution to the Georgian economy. At the entrances of the casinos in the capital, you are greeted by well-dressed attendants. Casinos in this country rival those in the Balkans and the USA, because Georgia is a country where acceptable taxes are applied. While you may pay up to 30% for the money you win at a casino in Texas, you will only pay between 10% and 15% tax in Georgia, attracting casino lovers to this country. This brings customers to Georgia and contributes to the economy. Similarly, the organization of tours for tourists at every point you step in Tbilisi and the influx of foreign currency into the country by the local people contribute to the economy. For example, there is a blue peace bridge over the Kura River, which divides the city and the capital. At both ends of this peace bridge and on the bridge itself, local people try to sell you tours or expect donations by making music. Georgians have managed to make efficient use of not only the bridge, but also the river. They organize boat tours along the river where you can explore the city. They ask for about 25 Georgian lari per person for a half-hour tour. Georgians keep Tbilisi so lively that they carry out many activities for tourists in the city. For example, cable cars are organized along the opposite sides of the river. These cable cars are pretty cheap, costing only €1 per person. But if you're looking for something more magnificent, Georgians have also thought about that and offer you a completely different experience with hot air balloons over the city. However, these balloons are a bit expensive and ask for €20 per person. They probably tell different prices to everyone, but it seems very difficult for you to ride those balloons for less than €15. If you want to explore Tbilisi by land, this time they can take you around with double-decker city tour vehicles painted red. Or you can tour the capital with tourist cars in white color, with sides open to the outside, located in the old town square of the city. One of the other important locations in Tbilisi is the clock tower made by a puppet master in 2010, where everyone takes photos in front of. This clock tower, located next to the theatre in the authentic part of the city, has a small angel coming out every hour with a small hammer to ring the bell. That's why they also call this clock tower the Angelic Tower. There is a street artist in front of almost every iconic area in the city. Street artists add great richness to the city, and they don't forcibly demand money from you for their efforts. The good thing is, they don't all perform the same type of art. Each of them performs different arts. Some can play the piano, some are interested in opera, some sing modern songs, and some perform traditional dance shows. There are many famous churches in Tbilisi, and if you are a woman, you need to cover your head as a sign of respect when entering these churches. Around the churches, there are many beggars. There is no density of beggars in this country like in the Balkans, because the majority of beggars in Balkan countries were from the Roma community. Roma communities couldn't establish themselves much in the Caucasus. The beggars in Georgia are mostly from their own people, at least that's what I saw, and they generally include elderly people who really have no means. Because in the Balkans, more children were begging. The central point where the heart of life beats in the country is Freedom Square. Georgians have built structures in the center of Tbilisi that resemble Russian architecture perfectly. However, the #1 metro line in the central square is not that cool. After buying a ticket for the metro, you descend underground for about 3 minutes. Meanwhile, the stairs are built steeper than normal. People living there are used to it, but someone coming from outside can lose their balance and fall on the escalators. These metros, flowing in opposite directions from both arms, have a red and white color, and they are probably designed in this color due to their flags. There are thick columns inside the metro that support the tunnel, as if keeping the metro from collapsing against collapses. In this sense, you can travel around the capital by metro without having to rely on taxis or city buses. People in this city mostly meet their transportation needs by metro, and it's really practical and cheap. The city is not limited to just that. The capital, Tbilisi, offers you almost everything except for sea opportunities. For example, let's assume you're in your early 20s. There is a particular area for young people and those who want to hang out on the margins called Fabrika in the east of Tbilisi. It is a place where an old sewing factory from the Soviet Union era was converted into a hostel called Fabrika and turned into a place that appeals to young people. If you stay in that hostel, you can enjoy the architecture of a Soviet-style hostel. Even if you don't stay at the hostel, there are many modern cafes lined up in the courtyard of the factory. These cafes are designed in colorful ways, and a free atmosphere has been created for young people to hang out as they wish. People can drink their drinks and smoke cigarettes comfortably here. If you go there at night, you can see that the atmosphere is livelier in the evenings, and various music blends wonderfully with young people. In this sense, this is one of the most important points in the capital where young people can socialize. If you look at people's faces, you can foresee that they are a bit marginal, have their own unique styles, and have a different mindset. If you're looking for a quieter and more upscale natural area in Tbilisi, you can head to Vake Park, located at the westernmost point of the city. This park, which has a completely free entrance, is a safe place where especially Ukrainian and Russian families spend time with their children and eat ice cream. Inside the park, you can take a walk with your loved ones or sit on one of the many benches. Or you can walk your dog or shop from one of the inexpensive businesses. This place is more for the classic 30-plus crowd rather than the crowd at Fabrika. The place with the most nightlife and night spots in the capital is this square in the old town area. Here is where Tbilisi comes alive at night, and you can see beautiful women and stylish men. The surrounding venues treat you as politely and kindly as possible. But of course, you don't have to sit in the venues, and you can enjoy the visual feast on the street for free. You can watch the beautiful people there, or you can accompany the music of the Georgian dancers in the square. Apart from all this, Tbilisi is a place that will satisfy your taste for architecture. They have managed to combine the architectures in the city with cobblestone streets and create an extremely modern capital. The flow of traffic in the city also progresses in harmony. For example, you won't see public transportation approaching the sides of buildings on wide streets. Public transport moves through the middle of streets and boulevards. Thus, municipal vehicles do not move in a complex arrangement with civilian vehicles, and traffic pollution and chaos are avoided. Instead of overpasses, underpasses are generally built on the opposite sides of the streets. Since overpasses are cumbersome to use and spoil the view, they have literally created another passage route underground in Tbilisi. They have also made a nice touch in terms of architecture, so that the old buildings in the narrow streets of the city don't look bad and outdated. They have made visual art designs on their walls. In this way, they have covered the floors and turned even an old ordinary building into a tourist attraction. Georgians are not only famous for their city design, but also for their cuisine. There are two dishes that everyone who comes to the country must eat. The first is khachapuri and the other is khinkali. Khachapuri is a baked product. It is a meal that can be produced in different sizes according to the customer's request, and generally, plenty of melted cheese and egg yolk are put inside. You have to eat this meal with your hands. You can tear a piece from the hard corner of the outside of the meal and mix the egg and cheese inside. They also bring butter with the meal, so you can spread the warm butter on the dough part of this baked meal and soften the bread. Or you can put the butter directly into the melted cheese. So essentially it's a Black Sea meal, and khachapuri is a type of pita with yeast dough filled with cheese and egg. The second famous dish of Georgians is khinkali, which is a soft white dough on the outside, and inside there is meat or garnish according to your preference. When you cut the inside of the meal with a fork and knife, it has water flowing towards the plate. A very similar meal in Turkey, right next to the country, is called manti. Georgians make it with much larger doughs. The meat inside the meal is a mixture of beef and lamb, and it's quite garlicky, just so you know. At least the khinkali we tried had a lot of garlic in its filling. If you're looking for an excellent meat dish other than these traditional meals, Georgians are particularly good at cooking beef. Chicken might not appeal to you much because of the various sauces they add to it. Also, the portions of barbecue meals in some places may not satisfy you or fill you up. Again, in this country, especially in Tbilisi, you'll come across plenty of bakery shops in the mornings. Georgians have pastries filled with beautiful cheeses and meats. Even one of these foods can be enough to fill you up. They put plenty of ingredients, and you can get yourself great breakfast items for an average of 1.5 euros in this country. For example, if you wake up late in the morning and are too lazy to prepare breakfast, you can have these delicious pastries from the night before, still fresh when you wake up in the morning. As for the bread in the normal bakeries in the capital, they have a slightly rugged appearance and prefer to make long, thin loaves. If we take a look at the prices in the market in the country, for example, they sell 1 litre of milk for 8 Georgian lari, which is around 2 euros. The price per kilogram of frozen chicken meat is 12 lari, about 4 euros. If you're curious about alcoholic beverages, the price of a standard-sized Jack Daniels is around 30 euros, my friends. In addition, you can determine the euro price by dividing the price of other drinks by 3. If you want to look for beer instead of whiskey, the price per beer bottle is around 1.5 euros. If you're looking for a typical large public market rather than a supermarket, there is a large market in the east of Tbilisi. In this market, you can find everything from food to phone repairs, from meats sold openly to clothes. Generally, low-income people in the capital tend to go here, because the market is quite far from the elite areas of Tbilisi, and those with money don't bother coming for a seemingly unhygienic market. Plenty of supermarkets and regular shops in the elite areas of Tbilisi cater to people's fruit and vegetable needs. People living in the central regions of the city often supply their food needs from supermarkets rather than public markets. One common complaint voiced by those living in Georgia is that electricity and water are frequently subjected to interruptions throughout the country. Especially those who have recently moved there are quite annoyed about this issue. People meet their cash needs from these single ATMs placed in various parts of the city. The ATM system works with a simple setup in this country. That is, they're not very large structures installed and mounted inside a booth. You can even make Bitcoin transfers in these paybox booths if you wish. They don't look very sturdy in terms of material when you look at them from the outside. Those who sell things at markets and on the sides of roads are generally people over the age of 50. This also proves that people in Georgia have to work even when they get older. So much so that when we look at the monthly rents of apartments in the capital Tbilisi, we can see that they generally are $700, and we can estimate that these amounts may force elderly families to work, especially in the capital. For example, the excessive number of Russians and Ukrainians in the country may have easily doubled the rents in the capital Tbilisi. This is a negative development for the local people to live cheaply. Perhaps the most important contribution of Slavs to the country is that they have raised the level of beauty to the sky. Wherever you go in the city, you really see extremely well-groomed and beautiful women. Both Russians and Ukrainians can attract attention even with the simplest clothes, and they dazzle with their genetic beauty. However, if you're from South Asia, I have some bad news for you. Although Georgian people are generally open to renting their homes to Slavs, they are not keen on renting to Indians. This is because of the beliefs of South Asian communities due to the incense they burn in their homes and their cuisine, which is quite distant from Caucasian geography. Georgians tend to be a bit cold towards South Asians. Some may even describe Georgians as racist because of such reasons, but in reality, this situation is purely due to cultural differences. Similarly, they don't warm up to Chinese people either because the Chinese tend to bargain in everything. Therefore, when renting an apartment there, a Chinese, an Indian, or an African may not have much luck, because landlords will first ask you which country you are from. As for the prices of second-hand cars in the country, they are quite reasonable. You can buy very luxurious new model cars for an average of $20,000 in this country. Moreover, don't worry about the price of gasoline, because there are many people in Tbilisi who use gas for their cars. As you know, natural gas is available in countries like Russia, Azerbaijan, Georgia and Turkey, and they can use this opportunity by installing a gas system in their cars. Still, no matter what car you have, it's advisable to drive carefully in Tbilisi, because while touring the capital, you'll come across quite a number of police patrols every 100 meters. Police officers patrol everywhere in this city and stand guard. Sometimes they can even ask for identification from people they find suspicious. Looking at it positively, we can say that Tbilisi is quite prepared for any kind of problem and gives a sense of security. From a negative perspective, despite the presence of so many police officers, Georgians drive like crazy, my friends. In my opinion, some of them don't care about the government and the police. However, if you park your car in the wrong place, they will come to tow your car immediately, and it's impossible to persuade officials about this matter. Another group of public employees you can see as much as police officers in Georgia are garbage collectors. Garbage collectors are everywhere in the capital city of Tbilisi. They clean the roads, garbage bins and parks several times a day. Moreover, when you visit Tbilisi, you will quickly see that even the side streets are spotless, not just the tourist spots. The garbage bins in the city are blackish, and there are 3 large bins side by side at each garbage point. Since one bin will not be enough for each street, Tbilisi municipality has preferred to put 3 bins. As a result, when the city is clean, almost every park in the capital city becomes crowded. People must find the parks in Tbilisi so beautiful that they can even fall in love with each other regardless of their age. And some uncles can even indulge in sweet dreams on the benches. Flowers are an essential economy for Georgians. People are dealing with floristry in the capital city of Tbilisi, and if you go there on a particular day, you will see many people giving flowers to each other. Therefore, they have even opened particular markets only for florists in the city centre. Some Georgian youths are talented and make ice creams by working hard in shops. Some of them can sell coffee in a mobile manner. Some contribute to their economy by working as waiters. At least these kids know a little bit of English. But unfortunately, out of every 10 merchants on the street, 9 of them, even if terribly, cannot speak English. I wanted to emphasize this again for those who are thinking of going there. In summary, Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia, is such a place. The next video will be about the city of Batumi in Georgia. Goodbye.